Hello everyone and welcome back. So in the last few days I've been trying to recreate this effect from the presentation from the Marmalade at side effects. And I come close enough to show you my approach. But instead of me covering just going over the nodes, we're going to recreate this step by step. I'm not going to cover everything at once, so we will do this in several few videos, but hopefully at the end we should have a similar result. So yeah, let's get into it. So we will start in a fresh new scene, and we could probably model this in an easier way, just like with a sweep and with round ends, but I'm gonna overcomplicate a bit just for the purpose of learning new tools. So I'm gonna start with a line. When I say modeling, I mean modeling the chocolate bar. So I'm gonna start with a line, place it along the z-axis, and center it. So I'm gonna take the length and paste it in the origin, divide it by 2 and make it negative. And we have 2 points, that's fine. So the next step is to just isolate one of the points. So I'm going to create an add node and delete geometry, but keep points and blast the point 0. So we get something like this. Now we want to create the roundness of the chocolate bar. So for that I'm going to create 2 points next to this one. So I'm going to use a wrangle and running over numbers, and I'm going to set 2 iterations. And the first step is to read the point position of the original point. So vector pos, it will be a point expression or a point function. We read from the first input, and we want to read the position, and we only have 1 point, so it's 0.0. So then we can just create in here, change the pos, because we want to offset them in the x, so set, and we will do position.x plus channel float offset, since we want to offset it. And let me see, what else do I have in here? Then we can just set position y, so we don't want to change the position y. And we also want an offset for the z, so this will be offset x, and this will be pos.z minus channel float offset z. So let's actually add those points. Add point 0, and the position is pos. So we had 2 points. Now we have 3 points, but it's in the center, it's in the same position, so we can offset in the x and on the z. But as you can see, we're creating 2 points that are on top of each other, and I want one in the other side. So what we can do is create a sign, so float sign, and we can take the lm_num, so the iteration number, 0 and 1 from here. So since it's 0 and 1 and we need minus 1 and 1, we can just multiply it by 2 and subtract 1. So now if we multiply the position x by the sign, we should have this point on the other side, and now we can control the position. I'm going to set the offset x to 0.15 and the offset z to 0.115, so something like this. So now we will add this, create a curve from these points. So let's do an add, and we can create. So as you can see, it's not working great. We can make it close, but I don't want. I just want to add those points. So if we look at the point numbers, we can just use a sort and shift in here, change this to shift and shift by 1. So 1. And now we have the desired result. Finally, we can resample these, and I believe I changed it to interpolating curves, I think. Yeah. So 0.02 and change this to interpolating curves. And now we have our rounded part. Now we want to group the ends. You can use a group by range, but I'm gonna create a group expression. And this will be points, and I'm gonna call it ends. And let's do at ptnum is equal to prim points 0 I at primnum, and make sure we select the first. And now we can just do or is the last one, -1. So now we have the ends. And what else do we want to do in here? We want to set an ID, so I can create a wrangle or a enumerate node would also work, but I'm gonna create in here an ID called I at ptnum, so the same as a enumerate. Then finally we can mirror this on the Z, so mirror, and we will mirror it on the Z. And I want to change this to no change since I don't want to reverse the primitive order. And I'm gonna add now to connect the shape. So add, I'm gonna do by attribute underscore ID and make sure I constrain it to the end. So we have something like this. Now I want to clip it. Since I want to mirror this, I want to have points at the center. So I'm gonna clip it on the X. And then a simple fuse, because we have several primitives, so fuse and polypath to unite the curves. So now we only have one. And finally we can do a symmetrize. So this is lapse. And I'm gonna do it on the X. So that's fine. Now we can do those two, so fuse and polypath to have a single one, and do a final resample. And this resample, I'm gonna set it to 0.05 and do subdivision curves. That's what I've done in there, I believe. So 0.05 subdivision curves. For some reason I have a different result. Oh, I forgot to add a resample in here. And also do subdivision curves and 0.075. So we got... So since we want a point at the centers, we also can do resample by polygon edge. So we have this result. So that's our base. Now we will organize this a bit and create a null in here. This will be our base. Now we will blast in here. So we will blast the center points. So hp dot z is equal to 0.0, and make sure we set these 2 points. So we have these center points. Now we will resample. So resample. And I'm gonna change the resample to be 0.03. And now we will deform the curve. So something really similar to what we have done before. So let's do that. Let's name it deform curve. And we will do float u equals vertex curve param 0 I at vtx num. This will create the curve u. Now we want to mirror that, so u will be equal to 1.0 minus absolute of u times 2.0 minus 1. This will mirror the effect, so if I assign this to an attribute, what have I done wrong in here? Oops. U. Let's see that. So as you can see now it's at the center, it's mirrored, and we can just create in here a ramp. So float deform will be equal to channel ramp, and I'm gonna call it deform, and it will be based on u. And we can create that ramp and do the following: v at p, and we need a normal, so I'm gonna set vector, and it will be along the y, so 0.0, 0.0, and finally we can deform it. So v at p plus equal v at n times deform and times an amplitude that I'm gonna create a parameter. So let's look at that, and now we can change the amplitude. So, and oh, not v at n, sorry, n. So now we can come in here and change the shape, and we can set it to B-spline and play with it. But in this case I want some overhang, so we're going to do that trick of deforming the incoming normal, or this normal that we created in here. So I'm going to create an angle, so float angle. It will be equal to a channel ramp, and I'm going to call it angle, and it will be based on the invert of the u. I think that's how I did it, yeah. And then after the end, we will create a quaternion to rotate that. So what it will be equal to a quaternion, call it angle, and it will be along the Z. So we want to change it to along the Z. Then we can just do N, it will be equal to Q rotate, and we will rotate this quaternion around the N. And we can create that now. So let's look at those ramps. First of all, the deform will be something like this. And then for the angle, let's see, I think I'm doing something wrong in here. So I'm mirroring this. So let's set it like this. And now if we come in here and start to play, I think I'm doing something wrong in here. So let's actually do, so I'm gonna set a value in here of 0. Then I will have a value in here around 0.18. Then a value in here that will be around 0.953 and a value of 0.96. And then the final value will be at 1. Oops, not this one. This one will be at 1 and 1.5. So I'm not sure why it's doing this effect. So let's do v at n is equal to n, and let's check those normals. So it's not a why is not working that well? So u times, so let's change the amplitude, and it should mirror those normals because I'm doing this in here. So something is weird. Oh, sorry, there is a mistake in here because we need to do a sign in here because we want to go this way in the negative x and that way on the positive x. So we need to do in here a sign or negate it and v at v dot x. So we get this result. So now if we actually remove these normals and displace it, we will have something like this. So as you can see, it's creating this overhang look in here, which we can do with normal ramps. We have done this before in the channel. So I'm gonna place the point in here and another one in here at 4.9 and a value of 1, and in here a value of 1. It can be something like this. So we get this result in here. And then I'm gonna change the amplitude to be 0.125. So it's not that much. And we can get rid of that visualization and the points. And now we will do a resample on this. In this case, 0.02 and subdivision curves. Yeah. Then we can delete the normals. So attribute delete. Let's just delete everything and create a node. So now we have these two shapes and we need to create geometry from it. So we can introduce in here the rails node to create the geometry. So rails, and let me get some space. So we want to connect the cross section, which is this one, and this one is the rail. But I don't think this will work because we need at least 2 rails. So we can do a clip, in this case along the x, and make it all primitives. Let's see. And we get this result, which is not very encouraging. So what we can do is do a reverse of the primitive 0. Yeah. And now we can just roll this 180 and we get this result. So now it's pretty simple. We can just sweep it, not sweep it, sorry, skin it. And we have the geometry. Now we can polyfill. I think I'd use quadrilateral grids. Yes, something like this. And now finally we can create the exoside quad remesher to have a nice geometry. You can try the Houdini remesher, but it doesn't work as well, as good. So I'm gonna mirror on the X and the Z, right? So on the X and on the Z. Or you can work with this geometry, it will be fine, but I'm just gonna quad remesh it. And I should get a decent enough result, but I'm getting some problems in here. So let's try. This node always gives me these problems. So we can remove that. Can we? No. Let's change this to 50. 20. I'm getting a different result, so I'm gonna change this. 600. I don't know why I'm getting that result in there. It's kinda weird. Let me try do single polygon and recook this, and it will be the same. Quadrilateral grid. Can we leave it this and just do a smooth? Yeah, I guess so. So we can do a smooth of 10, that's fine. And let's lock this now so you can access on Patreon. And there we have our initial shape. So now we will take care of the UVs. For that we need to select some seams. So I'm going to create a wrangle to select a single point on detail. So I'm going to get the bounding box max. So get bbox max 0. And I'm going to get a near point. So int near point will be equal to near point on that path. And I'm gonna just set point group 0. I'm gonna call it theme, and it will be the near point and 1. So max, let's set it to max, sorry. And now if we output that group in here, we will have a point in there, but I want to change this max. So I'm gonna go and change a bit this position. So I want it more centered. So vector pause will be equal to set. On the X will be 0.0, on the Y 0.02, and on the Z max.z. And now if we do that in pause, we will have a point in there. So I guess that will be fine. Let me check. So let me see, I have 508. I need more points in here. I want to change this to 800, so let's lock that. Mode, that's fine. And now let's do the point. Okay, I had to change a bit because the numbers above are a bit different from my scene. So now we want to do another wrangle. Select initial point. And this one will be expand init point. And this will be pretty simple, so we'll just do int points, and we will get that group. So expand point group, and this will be the seam. Then we do near neighbors. It will be neighbor, so neighbor 0, and it will be the only point we have in that points group. And then we can neighbor. Oh, we need to set the neighbor that we want. In this case is 0. And then we can just set this set point group, and this will be neighbor. Let's output that group. Now we have that point. Now we can group promote the seam to edges and only this. We can do a group find path. and we select the seam and the seam, and we already have the selection. Finally, we can do a UV flatten, and we select the seam. So maybe triangle base, yeah, it will be the same. I don't think I did anything different in here, so that will be fine. So now that we have the UVs, we can subdivide this mesh. And for now, and I'm gonna subdivide it 4 times, so maybe 3. It will be enough. And now we want to create that deformation on the mesh. So for now, I'm just gonna save a rest state. So v at rest, v equal to v at p, so we can come back to it later. Now I'm gonna create a mask in here. So attribute adjust float. Gonna name it mask, since I want to mask the effect. In this case, it will be bounding box, and on the Y. And I wanna adjust it in here, so get it here, and also something like this. Now I want to create some noise, so I'm gonna use a point pop instead of the mountain. I'm gonna create a null in here just in case. And let's see what sort of noise will I create. So I'm gonna start with unified noise. So unified noise. Gonna connect the position to the position, create a constant for the frequency with middle mouse. Then I'm gonna change it along the Z to be 5 and create a multiply constant. And in this case, I'm gonna repeat it like 5 times. And we can already output this, so this plays along normal. I'm gonna connect this noise to the amount and connect this to P. So why is it not working? So let's see, I'm connecting to P, this plays along normals. What am I doing wrong in here? This is connected to the amount. Do I need a normal afterwards? So let's get rid of this mask. Let's see, position, frequency, position is position. Let's connect this to CD, so that's fine. And I'm connecting the noise to the amount. Do I need to connect in here the P? Nope. Why it's not working? So sorry, I created a primitive VOP. Sorry about that. We need a point VOP. So let's do a multiply constant in here and change the amount. And in this case, I change it to 0.033. And what else? We can do multiply by the mask. So bind, we will bind the mask and do a multiply here. So something like this. Now I also want to distort this a bit. So I'm gonna create in here. First of all, let's change the noise type. So in this case, I want to change it to Worldly Cellular F2 F1. Change this offset to something like this. No fractal, and the rest is fine. And now let's distort this noise. So let's create an add. And we will do a turbulent noise, position to position, and this. I will change this to 3D because we want zero-centered offset. Let's change the frequency to 2. The offset, I played with this value, but it will probably not be the same result. And I want to change, in this case I set a negative amplitude. And I'm going to change the roughness a bit. So we get something like this. Let me see if that's close enough. Yeah, so in this case I think I want to change to give it another iteration. So something like this. Then we can do an attribute blur. Change this to 30 and dump in border points and create a normal. In this case, default settings will be fine. Then we can create a null in here. This will be our rest, and we will create a wrinkle deformer. And this will go in here, and this one in here. Let's have a look. So let's first of all change the constraint iterations to 500 and change the neighbor distance to 5 so we have smaller wrinkles, or bigger wrinkles I mean, and the rest length scale will be around 1.07, so something like this. And now we want to scale the wrinkle by the mask, so let's set this to deform geometry and change in here to mask. And I'm also going to delta smooth it, so 5. Maybe this is a bit too much. Let me see. Yeah, I guess this is about the same, so let's change this to 6 maybe. So it takes us just a second. Yeah, not worth it. So I guess this will be fine. This will work fine. Now we can do a small peak on this, so peak, to reduce a bit the size of the hills. So in this case, minus 0.005. And let's do a smooth also. In this case, the default settings will be fine. And this will be our final shape. So now we want to create the interior and the braking. So for that, I'm just going to create a wrangle in here and do v at p is equal to v at rest. So we have no deformation, and we can place a smooth. I think default settings will be fine. Then we can pick it a little bit. So minus 0.01 and do an unsubdivide. And I think I did it 3 times. Yeah. And then we can do a reverse and place a normal in here. And this will be the interior. So let's merge those. Yeah. And now we will create in here a grid to be our cutting geometry. And this will be on the XY plane, 0.05, no, 0.5, 0.5, and let's place it negative 0.2. So you want to change the position to where you want to cut it. Now we'll create a mountain to distort it a bit. So this is where you can art direct the cut. So in this case, I'm going to change the amplitude to 0.06. 0.06. Element size can be 0.1 and an offset of 9.6. Simplex is fine. And I think I changed the roughness in here. Yeah, that's fine. Now we can do a subdivide in here and set it to 2. So this will be our cutting geometry. And now we can do a simple boolean. So let's drag this in here. Boolean shatter in this case. So yeah, and let's do this one and this one. And we have the cut in there. So let's just do surface on the second input because that's a surface. Then we can create a connectivity. Point will be fine, and do an exploded view. Now let's do it on point and make sure we set it to class. So here we have, now we have the interior clean and the exterior as the deformation. Now we need to create in here 2 surfaces to close the shape, since we want some shapes in there. So after the connectivity, let's create a null on this grid. Oops, and let's quickly object merge. And we will create another copy. So copy a transform. And I'm gonna set it on the Z to be 0.025. So we have something like this. And we can reverse one of them. Let's see. Let's reverse at call. I need to output in here copy num. So let's copy this and do at copy num is equal to 1. And let's do a small peek. So now we can pick, and I'm gonna do 0.013. Now we can do a boolean. So boolean, I think I did intersect. Let me see. No, I did subtract. Let's do subtract. Let's boolean by this. Let's drag this up. And oh, we need to get rid of this exploded view. So I'm getting a different result. Why is that? Why am I getting the two planes? So let me just check. We have in here the cut. Let's try to do surface. No, solid in this one and surface on this one. Yeah, let's do intersect. Intersect won't work, so shatter. Let me see. So I reverse one of these, I pick them, and I'm getting a different result. So subtract. After the connectivity, right? Yeah. So what we can do is to create in here some groups. So let's see these ones. Let me see how I will solve this. So as you can see, the Boolean node can be a bit unpredictable. So I'm going to set to subtract and do this A outside B. That's fine. Now I'm going to blast this, not this group. Then I can just delete small parts. This is a bit of a hack, but anyways. So let's invert the results. Yeah, that's fine. Now we can attribute promote from the primitives, copy num to point, and I'm gonna rename it to class. And let's see if that's similar to this one. So in this case it's the other way around. So what we can do, let's first of all, we need to reverse this. So reverse and do a normal. Let's get rid of these. So we want them inside. And let's do a UV flatten. And make sure we don't enable manual layout. So let's look at those UVs. They look something like this, which will be a problem down the line. So now in order to have the same connectivity, so let's look at the class. And to have the same connectivity on this one, so we need the other way around. So for that we can do an attribute sort. So this is new to Houdini 21. And we will do class. And we will do descending. So is it working? So let's try ascending. Let's start to visualize this. Let's set it to flat. So we want the other way around, right? Let's make sure we delete original and we also delete the other class attribute that we have in here. So we can do attribute delete. And let's delete the point class attribute. Now if we do the sorting, so let's look at this. So we need it the other way around, right? So pink on the left. Oops, sorry. No, pink on the right. Why is it doing this on descending? I have a prim, sorry. We also need to delete the prim. So UV flatten. And now we do the sorting. This is weird. I think I need to change something in here. Set this to maximum. Yeah, still the same result. So again, some things that didn't happen in my original file are happening now, so we can easily sort these by the Z and do descending. And now we will have the same class corrected, so that's fine. Now we need to place these UVs in the same position, so for that I'm gonna reorient these UVs, so attribute wrangle, and we will unwrap it in place. So string geo unwrap 0, and the component, the attribute is the UVs. Then we will get the bounding box center, so vector center will be get bounding box center of the geo, so we get the center of the island. Then we do v at uv minus equals center, and we need to place this on vertices that will go there. And we need to make sure we do this on the class equal to 0. Change this to points. So this attribute sorting is still having an issue. Let's see. Let's change this to flat and remove. That seems clean. So if you have this issue, we can do the following. You can create a fuse and do this. So let's just make sure it's on the right, that's fine. Now let's look at those UVs. So we move them to the center. So class 0. Now we can do v at uv.y multiply equals to -1. So we reverse the y. And then we do v at uv plus equals center. And we have them on top of each other. That's fine. And that's what we want, because we want to take advantage to create some mirroring at the end. So in order to have them in the same island when we do the UV layout, I'm just going to create an island in here, an island attribute on the primitive. So I at island will be equal, let's set it to a random number, so 2. Alright, now we can do a merge. So let's take this exploded view, place it in here, and do a merge. Create a null. And do another exploded view. And we will do based on point and on the class. So we get this result. So as you can see, we created the interior shape. So I think that's about it for now. In the next part, we will start to work on creating the filling. So guys, I think we have enough for today. There's still a lot to do, so we will do that in the next part. But for now, we modeled the chocolate bar and we have everything ready, even UVs, to work on the following tasks. So that's it for today. You can grab the files on my Patreon, and alongside with exclusive tutorials and all the project files from my videos. So check that out if you want to support me, as I'm doing this series for free. And in the next part, we will continue on this project. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.